I have never been wrong with this. Every single person who's listening to this right now or who sees this already has an investor in their phone book. They probably just don't know it.
Yeah, we're just taking it into
probably one of my quietest episodes. I'll just listen.
I've never seen Rob so quiet.
Rob was just like,
I'm just taking it in. I was like, JV, BRR, rah. RAH. But guy.
You get into the real world, no one cares about your age, man. Like,
and has quiet. No one has mental quiet. I don't experience that mental quiet. There's always something going on. There
is always something that you can offer that somebody else can't. An individual thing, maybe not. But as a collection of everything together, no one else has the same setup of balance of traits that you do.
Self-reflection. I'm pretty sure the gifts you had, they didn't just come to you like that. You had to really think about, what do I actually like to do?
Yes. Not the last one I bought. The one before, the penultimate one that I bought for 39,999 quid. You can get houses seriously.
39.
What's good, people? It's that time of the week. It's that time of the day. My name is Coach Klutze, and we are back again with another big episode and another amazing guest. But before we introduce him, as I said beforehand, my name is Coach Klutze. Thank you once again for clicking on this video, and trust and believe and trust. Stay to the end because it'll be absolutely jam-packed episode. Jono, talk to them, please.
I'm Jonathan. Nice to meet you. I run a digital marketing agency. That's what I do.
Yes.
And then we're here today on a podcast once again with an amazing guest.
Yes.
Obviously, I can't even do him justice. Usually it's Rob that does the people them justice.
Yes.
Because it's WWE intros.
Yes.
But I just like to say before all of that, James is even laughing. Oh, said it. You already know his name by the title. But before we do all of that, I want to say that I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yes.
Met James twice actually now. Briefly the first time at the event, like very briefly.
Yeah.
But then more so the second time at our other event that we had the other day. But I'm very much looking forward to this.
Thank you, man. Honestly, it's so good to be here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Wait, you see yet, man?
Yeah, this guy, he's always jumping in.
I want to do my thank yous anyway. We're in a good positive vibe and a really positive space, and I love this. We apparently have a whole episode to talk about me. So like, I just wanted to thank you guys. Obviously, I'd spent time at two of your events now.
Yeah.
One with Gen Z as well, and a few people have said to me, like, not so why did you go to these events, but more like, how were they? Did you get anything out of them?
Yeah.
And what they really meant is like, did you get any money or did you get any sales or whatever? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't go to those events for that reason. I went because when you're around people who are starting out, there is a hunger and a fire in their bellies that is like infectious. And after you've been doing anything for a couple of years or whatever, it can be easy to lose that.
Yeah.
And yet that fire, that drive, that hunger is so important. And it's what really makes entrepreneurs. And I think I just missed a little sense of it. And when I went to that first event, I was like, yo, this is cool.
Kick.
I want to be back in this space, and I want to feel this again. So yeah, man, thank you for facilitating a room full of awesome people. Yeah. And especially in this generation as well, when there's so many people who are just at home playing COD.
Yeah. It's needed, man. It's needed. An environment like that is needed because when you're on your own, in this journey, right, you can feel like there's no one else on the same mindset as you or the same goals or aspirations as you. But when you facilitate something like that, we're all in the same room, you look around, you're like, wow, there's other people on the same journey as me. I'm not alone. So once again, thank you for coming, man. And we are privileged. There's going to be many more of those coming up very, very soon. So guys, stay tuned. But before we go any further, you heard the man. You heard him speak, but let me introduce him so you guys know who he is. So this is James, right? He is an award-winning property man.
Gosh.
An investor, a sourcer, and also a mentor. But above all of that, though, generally a good guy.
Yeah.
As you said, very zealous, very hungry, always willing to grow. Not someone who's just done all these successful moves and is just content in that move, but rather he's always willing to grow and willing to love everyone. So, guys, please help us introduce Mr. James.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. AWT.
Evening.
That was quite an intro, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's very good at it. He's very good at those intros.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I imagine him like doing it with like a big like deep voice, some effects, being like, "Welcome to this." You can do that too as well.
Why not, man? Because you used to love WWE, innit?
Back in the day, man.
Oh yeah, you used to. Yeah, you used to.
But yeah, as I was saying though, in fact, not as I was saying, what we always like to do, I guess, we asked you at our event.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you remember the answer now.
Yeah.
But what we always do, as you guys know, Purpose Led Family, we ask the guest one simple question, and it's this: if this part of your life was a chapter in your book, what would it be called and why?
Just as you were asking that question, I remember you asking it at the event, and I was trying to remember what I said.
Don't you remember?
It's funny though, because like my initial gut feeling about what it's about is exactly the same for me. It comes down to one word: patience. But
Patience.
The title I gave it on the event And the title I give it now, if I was writing the book and was actually giving it a chapter, I would call it like The Long Wait.
Okay.
You know, property's not a fast game.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, business and life can be slow as well. I mean,
Yeah.
things change so regularly all the time, but when you're caught up in the middle of it, it can be hard to kind of see where you're going and constantly keep your eyes on the future whilst looking at today too, and find that balance is very, very difficult. And for me, especially within the real estate business, like especially within development as well, where all these deals are 2, 3, 4 years long. And it's not like I didn't know that. Like, I knew that when I started them. But yeah, you just have to wait. And there is a lot of work throughout it as well. So it's not like you forget about it or anything like that. It's just more like you're working for a long time.
Yes.
And yeah, fine. If you have your own cash and you're doing your own deal and you can build in management fees and stuff for yourself. But predominantly when you're starting out doing any deal, you're most likely in most JVs going to be like, right, you bring the money, I'll do all the work.
Wait, JV is?
Joint venture.
Thank you.
I.e. two people coming together for a common purpose. Most commonly, someone brings the money. Someone brings what we call the sweat equity, i.e. the time, the experience, the knowledge, the effort. And then you do the deal, and at the end of it, there's some profit, and you split it 50-50. Okay. Well, if that deal's 3 years long, you're doing all the work for 3 years, and then you get paid the back end. You know, and you usually get paid pretty well. But the point is you're still working for 3 years without a paycheck, and you got to keep your eyes on the goal and where you want to be and what you got to do. And remember that it's coming, but also be patient. And yeah, you mentioned it already. Like, I struggle with staying in one place. Like being content. Even now, I guarantee, you know, the camera's going to be like trying to keep hold of me as I move around.
Even at the event, you said you spoke to like someone different.
Yeah, I never sat
2 minutes and you,
twice.
yeah,
Just moving
exactly.
around. So yeah, like for me, it's the long way. It's that chapter where I'm building some of that patience and that I guess resilience, just like seeing forwards and where things are going. Patience is a virtue at the end of the day. It's something I've been working on for many years. When I was younger, it was not one of my strong suits.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, everyone has different skills, everyone has different benefits and characteristics. And, you know, I think on one hand, I'm maybe still dealing with the patient side of it all, but on the other side, you know, I'm quick to make decisions, quick to make actions, and you know, one is not necessarily better than the other. You need both.
Yeah.
You know, and to be a rounded, balanced human who can grow as far as they can. You know, sometimes you've got to grow into those areas you don't like. In fact, more often you have to grow into those areas you don't like.
That's how you see growth. Yeah,
exactly. You know, you look for where there's a bit of fear or a bit of nervousness. And, you know, I love it and I hate it, but if I feel a little bit of like fear or nervousness, I said to myself years ago, and I really wish I'd never said it, because it's hard. Like every time I feel it, I then have to go and do it.
Yeah.
If I catch myself being like, "Oh, you're a bit reluctant to go speak to that person," well, I've got to do it now.
Yeah.
And I've caught myself out, so I then have to go and do it, and it's great because it drives your business forwards. But
when
it's
did
tough
you
at the
make that?
moment.
When did you make that switch then? So it must
Pretty
have been a
much
point
the start
where.
of my entrepreneur journey, really.
So it was actually at the start.
Yeah, because it's not easy, you know, especially when you go networking for the first time. How do you go speak to a stranger?
Yeah.
That is hard, and it gets easier, but it never gets super easy.
Let me ask you a question then, bro.
Go on.
How did it all begin? How does property journey all begin? We'll talk about property, we'll talk about development, we'll talk about the 3-4 year patience.
The JVs.
The JVs, right? Joint ventures for the people then. If you're listening, make sure you're listening. But how did it all begin, this property journey?
I'm going to start about a year or so before property.
Okay.
2016?
Give or take, yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you a condensed version. So I went to college or whatever, and I was at college. I thought I was going to go to uni like everybody else.
Yeah.
And like everybody else, I had loads of like names on my UCAS app, but I only ever wanted to go to Bath. Wasn't interested in the rest of them. I was just like, yeah, uni. It didn't really catch me. But that one course, that one uni, I was like, yeah, fine. And as I was doing my A-levels, I kind of worked out that I was never going to get in. Even if I got like 100% every paper, I was like, yeah, I bombed too bad last year.
Right.
This ain't going to happen. And not wisely, I just kind of packed it in, decided I wasn't going to revise and just kind of live a happy life throughout the study leave, which was great. Should have, you know, worked on my work ethic and stuff, but nonetheless, came out, got some grades, and I kind of said to myself, right, you have 3 years to make the same money, which at the time was like, I think 26.5 grand a year was the average graduate salary. I was like, right, you got 3 years to make that. If you did that, then actually not going to uni was a good decision. That's kind of how I justified it to myself.
Okay.
Spent a few months not really doing anything. Over the next couple of years, I had a few like dead end jobs, stacking shelves and all the rest of it. Just kind of working out that life wasn't quite as good as I thought it was going to be, that I still have a lot to learn, and actually, the world of work is very different to the life you have at school.
Yes.
And the stuff isn't
big
just like
time.
fed to you on a platter. You actually have to go out and do stuff. Throughout that period, I did some freelancing as a sound engineer.
Yep.
That comes into play later, and I kind of carried that on for a while. And I guess it was my first love, and that was very much entrepreneurial in the case I had to go out and meet people, and I was networking, and I met some really cool people. You know, I had some really cool events, like really awesome events, and some of the guys I met, they've been touring globally with bands you probably recognize, like Boy George and Paul Weller and stuff like that. So like big names from a few years back. So people knew what they were doing. And then I kind of did the maths and was like, actually, you know, average engineers making like 40 grand, 45, maybe even 60 grand a year if they're really good. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of want a bit more than that. So I decided that particular career sector wasn't for me, but it was bringing in money. So I carried on doing it.
And did you enjoy it when you were doing it?
I did enjoy it. And you know, I still enjoy it. And let me come back to the enjoyment piece because it's a big topic that is super important. But yeah, so as I came out of that, I then I was stacking shelves, whatever, and then my mum came home one day and was like, look, seen a job, full-time pay, whatever. Why don't you ever go have a look at it? I applied for it, got the job. 3 months later, super condensed story, I was basically realised I was quite good at what I was doing.
What was the job in?
I was working for the revenue man. I was collecting taxes.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool, actually, because it got me used to speaking to people on the phone. And it got me used to speaking to people on the phone that I didn't know and about topics they don't want to talk about. People don't want to ring up and fix their tax. And people do not want to hear from me when I'm ringing up asking them to pay their tax.
Essentially cold calling.
Some of it. When you start out, a lot of it's the inbound stuff. So people are ringing up to actually solve it after you get better, then you go on outbound. But, yeah, and it was kind of useful for that. And I learned how the system worked as you do in school, where I could get extra time for breaks and whatnot.
Okay.
You know, I always claimed that I'd smoke so I can get like 15 minutes an hour or whatever, nattering with people, and it was cool. And yeah, I just kind of had the whole rat race experience super early on.
Yeah.
You know, I did pretty well there and people liked me and stuff, but I just had the rat race experience super early.
Age?
I was like, probably like 19.
Okay.
Wow.
And, you know, I was making like £1,200 a month. It was an average salary, but I had like £1,000 a month of disposable income. So I was basically balling.
Yeah.
And especially at that age too.
Yeah. £1,000 a month. I could literally go on holiday to like Malaga or Spain or Amsterdam or, hey, if I save for like 3 months, I could probably have a pretty decent trip to New York and back. Like, so I had loads of spare money, if you will, what I thought was loads of money at the time. And I quit my job on the basis of that. I was like, yeah, forget this. Spent 3 months unemployed. And throughout that period, I learned the true value of boredom. I learned so much about myself in that period. It was crazy. Wow. Not having anything to do, not having any obligations, not needing to go out. I thought I'd just go on holiday. You know, I sat at home. I didn't really do anything, never really went out. And I hated it. I don't think I would go as far as saying I was depressed. It's probably unfair on people who actually suffered with it. But I was getting low.
Yeah.
And one day I remember I was walking down the street and I saw an old mate of mine I went to primary school with and say, hey, man, how's things? He's like, you know what, they're really, really good. You know, settling in with the missus, you know, just got a dog or whatever, got a paying job. You know, thinking maybe we'll try for kids next year or whatever. Like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, damn, nothing, man. And, you know, he was really spoiled. He didn't say anything bad, but I felt so ashamed in that moment.
How old were you at the time?
Lonely, like about 19. This was 2017.
Okay.
Settling down with a missus at that age.
Well,
Some people be fast, bro.
He was a year or two above me. So he was
Oh, okay. Well, even still.
Yeah, he was settling down. He wasn't married or anything like that. He was probably like 20 at the time, but
retiring from the game. Retiring from the game.
Anyway, you know it is in the Christian world. Like, most people get married like 18. And, so yeah, like I just felt really low, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that the regular work life wasn't for me. I knew that the engineering like sound thing, whilst I enjoyed it, wasn't for me long term. And throughout that, I met my dad came home one day and just basically said, I'm going to a networking event tonight. Do you want to come? And I was like, I guess I may as well. And he's like, well, look, you need to get a job. You got to do something. You can't stay at home. You're coming with me. I was like, all right, sweet. So we went over to Leicester and a guy got on stage and he was talking about how you buy houses for no money. I'm like, it's picked up. I was like, I quite like to buy a house with no money, you know. This sounds like a good idea. Yeah. I should give it a go. Yeah. And he gave me his book. I took his book home. It was signed. I thought, yeah, I'm going to read that, put it on the side for tomorrow. Got up the following morning, didn't look at the book. A few weeks went by. One of the guys I was doing some sound stuff with said, hey, why don't you come along and work with me as a Sparky?
What does that mean?
Electrician, apologies.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so just a tradesman. And he was like, I'll train you, and all the rest of it was like, mate, I am not going back to college. It was not, I'm not interested in that. I'll just work as a labourer for you. Like, I'll pick up how to do it, whatever. Your other guys can sign it off. And I'll just kind of work with you. And this was really quite a blessing for me, actually, because it was relatively flexible. I could work within reason the hours I wanted to, within reason. I could take unpaid leave without it being a massive issue because I was unskilled. You know, I wasn't relied on to sign stuff off. But I could also do loads of works, and there was loads of events, especially on the weekends. And throughout that period, you know, I was getting up at like 5 a.m. I had like an hour and a half commute in the cold. This is like Beast of the East times, working outside. It was rough, but at the same time, I think it was really useful for me to go through that period of just straight up hard work and hard graft. And I was pulling insane hours through that. And I remember one weekend we did 51 hours in 3 days after a 60-hour work week. And for me, it's useful having lived all that. When I got into entrepreneur space, then I was like, I can do this. I can put the 100 hours in. It's not going to kill me. I know that this is okay.
Yeah, because you've already been stretched to that point where it's like, even when you're doing the entrepreneur stuff, you're still getting stretched, but it's not to that extent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So about 2 weeks after I started that job, I wouldn't say I had the rat race experience again, but I was getting up at 5 a.m. There were plenty of days where I got up and I was like, why, man? Can I please go back to bed? And I thought, I never read the book. I sat down, I read the book, and I was not a big reader. This was the first book I'd ever read.
Wow.
And I blitzed it in like 2 hours. It wasn't a big book. It wasn't a big book, but I blitzed it in like 2 hours.
We talking, what, like 100 pages?
120 something like that,
120 pages.
Fairly big text as well. It was great for me. Which was good. Like for me, that's what I wanted, because it gave me some information I needed, got my palate
accessible.
You know, got a bit of taste of it. And on the back pages, you know, like meet some people, do this, do that, and it's like, come to the course. So I went and did a training event in January, and then that was like kind of through Beast of the East and all the rest of it. So all that was happening at the same time. I was learning. And when I got the job as a Sparky, although I hadn't read the book yet, I was kind of already within reason already sold on property. So I said, right, I got 12 months. Work for this, make some money, because I still need to get paid, but like 12 months, I want to be out. That was November 17. Then spent January, February, March, all the way through to back end of August, learning what I had to do, going to every course I could, going out to networking events, just soaking up information, YouTube videos, podcasts, articles, blogs, books, the lot, just consuming as much information and content as I could.
Wait, you see these events that you go into, were they paid or were they free?
Oh yeah, I paid for them.
Okay.
I took out a 10 grand loan.
Wow.
Really?
I actually had to go to 16 different banks. It was the 16th bank that said yes to the loan. Mate,
Really?
I was committed. I'd already told them I had the money. I'd already paid for it on like a charge card. So I had like 4 weeks to clear it. And I came home, my mom was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? But my mum, bless her, she never said this or anything, but I felt it. She may not have been for what I did, but she was for me. And she knew full well that if she was going to pull me down and drag me down and question what I was doing, like, it was not going to help the problem. Fundamentally, I had to, if she couldn't convince me to go get a refund or pull out or whatever it might have been, whether they'd offered that, I don't even know, then, you know, it wouldn't have made any difference. So she was like, well, look, I can't offer you help. I'm not going to give you money to deals or anything, but I will support you, you know. So she never dragged me down. She was always wonderful. Same with my dad. My dad was more for it, to be honest. He's more entrepreneur. My mum's much more risk adverse. But yeah, you know, she always supported me. And whenever I'm talking to people who are trying to get into something entrepreneur and their family are against them, I'm like, look, these are your family. They're looking out of you. They're saying no out of love because they want to protect you. They don't have to agree with what you're doing. Just, you know, come to some form of agreement where you won't press it upon them that they have to go and do this as well, because they're probably not going to be sold. Yeah. But understand that, you know, they will support you in this. Like, they'll give you the encouragement, they'll give you the motivation, tell them about what you're doing, use them to keep you accountable, because they want to see you succeed more than everybody else. You know, they don't want to tell you, I told you so. You know, but they will. If you don't go out and do it. So as I was learning all these courses, I met an investor.
Sorry, hold on. Can we just stop?
Really good. I think that's a really good. That's a really good point.
A lot just happened there. So so there's so many lessons that could be drawn from what you just said. Like, first of all, one of them I would say is investing into yourself. And believing in yourself, and how those two kind of are interlinked. Because you had to believe in yourself before you invested in yourself. And I was here thinking, oh, maybe he's just going to free courses, maybe he's doing this and getting these books from different people, just kind of like low budget stuff. No, you were investing into yourself and investing into your mind.
First course I paid for using my overdraft. I extended my overdraft to pay for it. So that was straight debt. The second one was a loan that I got, and it was like 16.9% per annum, the interest. It was disgusting.
Ugh.
It was disgusting.
People, that's not a normal percentage.
Nah. But I just took it because there was the only people who were offering it to me. And my genuine thoughts were, well, I'm going to have to raise money to buy a house. So if I can't even raise money to buy a course that's like 10 times cheaper than a house, how the hell am I going to buy a house? I kind of saw it as step one.
Yeah.
I want to jump in real quick, right? One thing which I've learned from this so far, right, is just the power of that every single thing in your life has led to this point today.
Yeah.
We spoke about this a bit earlier on, right?
Yeah.
You wake up early in the morning and have to do all those hours, right? It taught you the power of working hard for something. But also now, not only working hard for something, you're working hard for something which you actually enjoy to do.
Yeah.
Another thing which I've learned through this story alone is the importance of persistence.
Yeah.
You're persistent beforehand in the rat race, working hard, even though you didn't enjoy it. And I look at you now able to do what you're doing now.
And the 16 banks.
The 16 banks.
The 16 ones said yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we'll talk a bit later on how the amount of times you had rejections on the way, still stay persistent.
We haven't even got into the story.
You know what I'm saying?
This is what's crazy when you're starting out. Like, all these problems you're having, you think are like life-changing and world-ending.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not great, but they're nothing compared to what it's like when you actually get going. Like, the stuff you will have to deal with when you know what you're doing, or you begin to know what you're doing, certainly. Like, it's a whole new ball game. And I talk about good problems a lot. And yeah, you can put yourselves in positions where you have to manifest solutions. And the easiest analogy for this is when you're going to the gym, right? A lot of people have motivation, then they go to the gym. Fantastic. Sometimes you won't have motivation, but you go to the gym and after your first set, you do have motivation.
Yes.
Sometimes the action comes before the motivation.
Yes.
Well, you can do the same thing in business. And like, let's say you want to buy a house for free and you want to go and borrow money from someone, do a deal and then pay them back and make some money for yourself too. Like, go and put an offering on a house. If you haven't said yes to doing it already, just go put an offering on a house and tell them you're going to buy it. Guess what? Now people are going to be asking you when you're going to complete. Now you're in a position where you have to manifest a solution. You have to go out and find these people.
That's accountability.
Yeah. So you can force yourself to be accountable, even if there's nobody else around you that will keep you accountable. And even if you can't keep yourself accountable, put yourself in a position where you have to win. If a bank is calling you every day because you owe them money, trust me, at some point you'll find the money.
When your back's against the wall, you have to find a way out.
I would say, right, humans in general, people in general, right, will scare letting people down. So you put yourself in a position where you have to get something done by a certain time makes you have to get it done.
Fear just drives you on further.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, it's not a good fear to have, but you can still use it.
Yeah, 100%. We're all fearful, but use the fear to power you, or not to keep you in a box. You understand what I'm saying? Like, use the fear there to make sure that you got the job done. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to use it. Turning it around and use it for your gain. But please continue, man.
I was literally just at the end, and then in August, met a client, drove up to Hull, 3 hours for a cup of coffee to meet him. And in September, I sold my first deal to him. And the day that I sold that deal and the day the money landed in the bank, two things happened. The first one is a light bulb went off in my head that how repeatable it was. I was deal sourcing. So I found an investor, found a deal that worked. I sold the deal to him for a few grand.
And then, sorry, explain to them what a deal is. What does it look?
A house that you think is a good investment, to be honest with you. So, for example, it could be a house that you find for like 60 grand. And yes, houses do go that cheap for our London fellows.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not the last one I bought. One before the penultimate one that I bought for 39,999 quid. You can get houses seriously.
39. That's like a
grand.
Car.
You can't even get a mortgage on it. That's how cheap it is.
That's what? That is
serious,
nuts.
Serious. So
how big was it? What, one bathroom?
2-bed terrace. Nah, 2-bed terrace.
I
mean, it was battered. Let's not get it out of the
way. Okay, right.
Slightly different strategy. I was buying something battered.
Okay.
Or if you ever watched Homes Under the Hammer.
Yeah, my dad used to watch
right,
that.
So similar story. You buy a house for X, you spend some money on it, you sell it for a bit more, you make a profit, right? So let's say that type of deal. That's a flip, exactly. Yeah. Let's say that's what your client was after. Tip there, if you know what your client's after, ask them. Oh, genius. And then once you've got what they want, then you just sell it to them for a few grand. A deal like that where you buy it and sell it and make some money, probably sell for like 4 grand.
Sorry, I just seen something very like
you can do it again
in what you're saying, similar to what like the e-com guys would say. So for them, even for me, when I did my first store, I saw that when that first payment came through, that someone has bought my item online. I'm like, this can happen again.
And it's like, what if I did it once a week? Okay, now what if I did it like once a day? And that's how this like the penny drop moment happened in your head as a businessman. We are like, oh, I see how this scales.
Yeah,
you see the vision. The second thing I did was I quit my job.
On that day that you got the first job.
Wait, question before you say that, right? From the moment you took this journey seriously to the moment you got paid, how long was that journey? You went through it, but how long was it from the start you started?
Till the following September. It's like 10 months.
Okay.
I said I had 12, so I was all right with it.
Okay.
You know what's another thing that's very interesting?
Yeah.
What we've realised with the people that come here on the podcast is that there are periods of their life where they go through a lot of change or something. It takes for something to come into fruition, right? And it's always around like 9 months, which is the same amount of time it takes for a baby. Do you see what I'm saying? About 10 months. Bro,
that's a great point, man.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's so interesting. Sorry, I just found that very, very interesting.
That's a great point, man.
There might be some more in there that could be dug out. That's well worth looking into and just generally.
That's really interesting, man. Because even you think about a baby too, right? If it comes out too prematurely, it can have problems, right? And that's the same thing with our dreams.
Fast, yeah.
If we push too fast, we go too fast. Don't dot the I's, don't cross the T's properly.
Yeah.
What happens? We don't finish the job properly. We don't get the job done properly. So that's a really good point.
Months, though. That's an interesting time. Like, I know obviously the year is a man-made concept in terms of management of time, but still, like 9 months is an interesting period. But yeah, so that was really interesting. I think when moving into property, a lot of those lessons I learned through the other periods were really, really useful. And the enjoyment thing, I really want to touch on this. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much money you make, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what sector you're in. It doesn't matter how old you are when you have the realization or you decide to make the decision. But please, if you're listening to this, do what you want to do. Like, I'm not saying go out and sleep with everybody or go rob somewhere. Like, I mean, like, what is it that you really want to do with your life? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to grow to? And for me, the people that are close to me are not necessarily people in property, not necessarily people who make money. They're people who are actively pursuing what they want to do in life. And I think if you really want to find driven, but driven not in like a pointless career that they don't want to do. People can be driven in their career and not love a single minute of it.
True.
I heard a stat this morning that was scary. In the UK, do you know that only 9.1% of people who are employed actually feel enthusiastic about what they do?
Wow.
9%.
That's like 1 in 10.
1 in 10.
Goodness gracious.
Please, if you're trying to find happiness or purpose in your life, if you want to be purpose-led,
come on.
Do what you want to do. Yeah. And it is the hardest question in life to answer, I think. What do you want to do with your life? But when you find what that is, and if you don't know, just go test stuff out. Just go do stuff.
That's exactly what I say. That's exactly what I say.
Just go start a job in digital marketing. Yeah. If you hate it, cool, pack it in, go do something else.
Yeah. Maybe move to property. Maybe
go property.
Exactly.
Maybe do e-commerce.
Yeah.
Maybe become an author or an artist.
Yeah.
Like, just do something that you love. And for me, I did find a love in the sound side of things. And I found a love in business as well, specifically within sales and relationships. But like, do what you want to do, because you'll never be happier. And yeah, there'll still be some days where you don't want to get out of bed, but please like go and do what you want to do. And you can find other ways of making money in things that don't pay. Like if you want to, for example, you want to run a charity, that's cool. You could still have a passive income from whatever it might be that somebody else sorts out for you, that you do once. And then you set up, and then you got like 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month coming the rest of your life, and you can dedicate the rest of your life to helping other people. Like, it doesn't have to be something that makes you money, So, but yeah, I really call upon people, especially young people, find out what it is you want to do, and don't feel like you're forced into going to uni or getting a job or even starting a business and doing all this other stuff.
That's really
like, just find what it is that you love.
Yeah.
As long as it's healthy, and pursue it.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find bigger changes in your life in that front, and you'll have more motivation to do other things. But the biggest thing that property did for me that I didn't learn in the previous ones was the self-discipline and accountability. When you work for somebody else, you've got to turn up at a certain time where you get sacked, right? Or you don't get paid. And they bring the accountability. When you work for yourself, no one is telling you to get out of bed in the morning and go on Rightmove and look for some deals or go out and do some viewings. You've got to do that yourself. You've got to get out and you've got to physically do it. And crazily enough, I'd had trouble like building in a regular schedule of exercise at the time. Within 3-4 weeks of starting property, it just fell in naturally, and it was a piece of piss. Like, it was so easy to do, and because I was like saying in one area of my life, I'm going to do this, and then going and achieving it, other areas of my life that started happening.
Isn't that funny? Well. We spoke about it beforehand. Like, when you start working in one area of your life, naturally other things start to fall into place too. It's not funny how people who are successful in one area of their life somehow successful in other areas of their life. Like, there's many people.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
When he took up golf, he took up baseball, but he was doing everything.
Yeah,
because he can. He's just someone. He's a high achiever. He just is successful at what he does. Yeah. Even in business as well, he's very good at what he does. Same thing.
When you call people like a high achiever, it kind of gives the vibe that it's like an innate characteristic to them. It's like a personality trait. And to some extent, I reckon it's built upon your personality traits. But I don't think you're inherently a high achiever just by the way you're born and your genetics.
Oh, no, not at all. Because the way that Michael Jordan started, he wasn't even on the team at the start.
No.
Yeah,
I'm saying he's a high achiever in the place that he's in.
Yeah.
Because he's one of the best players who's ever been playing basketball.
Oh, he's great, yeah.
You see, the greatest of all time, some people call him. And I wouldn't blame him for calling him that because I wouldn't want to go against him in a 1v1. But I mean, I might try it. I'm
tall enough.
I'm tall enough, but maybe not skilled enough. You know?
Yeah, man.
Not high achievery enough.
But I
hear what you're saying. Yeah. Because some people will use it in that context. But the only reason I use that for Michael Jordan is because his level of talent is stupid, and it carries across in different facets of his life.
Right? And usually the area that you love will probably be built to some extent on natural gifts and talent. But you still have to nurture them, you still have to grow them, and all of the skills and characteristics you need around that are usually things that you've got to self-manifest. Again,
I want to touch on 2 points right there. So one thing I want to say too, right, in terms of acting, like I use an example. You said how like when you started being disciplined, your journey property, right? Everything started to fall into place. There are so many actors, for example, right? They start their journey of acting and they start going very high in acting, right? And then suddenly now they're in great shape. Why is that? Because as you said, when you do one thing, other things start to fall into place. Yeah. Another thing I want to touch on too, right, which is what you said, which is a really good point, right, is the fact that everyone has gifts. Like you said it right there. You said it quite quickly, but I wanted to really stop and think about that. Everyone has gifts. Your gifts need to be nurtured. They need to be pursued, and also they need to be recognized by yourself first of all, because there's no point having these gifts in place if you don't recognize it. And the question you're probably thinking right now is, how do you do that? How do I even think about the gifts I have? One, I will say, ask your friends.
Literally about to say the same thing.
And two, self-reflection. I'm pretty sure the gifts you had, they didn't just come to you like that. You had to really think about, what do I actually like to do? You did that, put the work in. Now look at you now. So just a very quick tip for everyone right now. You're thinking to yourself, bro, what's my gift? I don't even know where to start. Like, take time to really think, and also ask your friends, which is important, which is why it's so important for you to have good people around you.
And say to your friend that the specific thing you can ask them is, what am I good at? What am I unreasonably good at? Like, what am I good at that not everybody is good at?
Yeah.
That is specifically what you should ask him. And then you might even be surprised at the results. You might be surprised. You might actually know deep down. I think a lot of people actually know deep down what they're actually good at. They have an idea. And ask your parents as well. It's not just your friends, because your parents probably know you even better than your friends.
Yes.
They've been seeing this stuff from when you were a child.
Yes.
And you didn't even realize.
Yes.
My parents saw in me that I was cool with a camera.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I might not even have been amazing with a camera when I first picked it up. But because they kept saying it to me, they kept saying, oh, you're so good at taking pictures, all this and all that. I had it in my mind that I was good at the camera, so I always had a camera on me. And by virtue of the fact that I always had a camera on me, I was always taking pictures. And because I was always taking pictures, I was getting my reps in, which meant that I was strengthening that muscle, aka photography, which went into videography. And hey, that's the reason that we got these two cameras here right now. It's funny how everything works together as well.
I mean, there's very few people in this world that I think truly value themselves as highly as they should do.
Say that again, sorry?
There's very, very few people in this world that truly value themselves as high as they probably should do. Especially in our generation. I think there's a massive gap. Like, I mean, obviously we see the stats about mental health problems, and I think especially with men as well, like it can be very hard to like be honest with yourself about what you are good at and what you're not good at. And you know, you say speak to your friends, and that's great. And there will be a couple that will be straight with you, but a lot of them won't. They'll be like, I just love how you're funny, man, or something like that. And they don't, they mean it, but they don't mean it. You know, it's like a half-assed attempt. You know, I mean, find the people who will be straight with you and will give you that insight in a really loving, supportive way. You know, people you would legitimately call your brothers rather than just, you know, your mates, and find out, exactly what you're good at. But the other thing is, like, I think a lot of people rely on too much external sources.
Validation for people.
And validation for sure, but also the answers that they're looking for in the first place, which they could probably work out themselves.
Yeah.
Even things like, you know, how many reps should I do when I'm at the gym? All right, well, listen to your body. What should I eat? Listen to your body. What are you good at? What are you not good at? Find where you start naturally excelling. Find areas where you find you're a little bit nervous. Just start listening to your feelings. And it can be a long journey, and I am not great at the feeling side of it all in terms of what I want to do and all the rest of it. I'm fairly good at knowing my general like strengths and weaknesses. But you've got to actually stop and think yourself in, not necessarily a dark room, but like on your own, with a bit of peace and quiet, and just think about where you want to go and what you're good at and what you like doing and why you value the people around you. Because you're probably hanging out with people you don't even know why you're hanging out with. Like you just get on well. Cool, but why?
It's real.
You have in common, and there will always be something you have in common and something that you desire in the people you're closest with.
Yeah, true.
You know, and this, when it comes to marriage, like this is even more true. You will have some stuff in common, but more often than not, in nature, opposites attract. They are probably the polar opposite of who you are. Everything that you don't have, you probably see it now, and that's probably why you love them, and vice versa.
Wow.
And when you actually start analysing this and look into it, and it's a little bit more difficult in modern days and age with the way marriage is, but especially if you went back like a couple of 100 years, or if you find specific examples of people who have been together for a long time, you'll probably find, and you ask them about it, because you become more like the other person, so your natural traits will settle down. But if you ask them what they were like when they got together like 20, 30, 40 years ago, and you start getting some stories there, you'll probably find that they're two different ends of the spectrum on similar things. One might be risk adverse, one might not be, or maybe the
like your mum and dad,
for example, or maybe there's that actually is the thing they have in common. Like it depends, but look at the natural traits that they have, and in your own friendship groups, it can be helpful as well to see that. Why do you spend time with people? And I remember early on in my property journey, and I was kind of asking some of these questions. It wasn't quite as literal as this, like, okay, what am I good at? Let's go ask someone. I was just generally having conversation. And I said to him, I was like, why do you hang out with me?
Damn.
Why do you actually hang out with me? And not from like an insecure place. Just like, I really wanted to know what you thought and what you think about me. Like, I want to know, help me out a little bit here. And when you do that and you give someone the floor to speak, they will do that. And you just got to obviously make sure, as with all friendships, right, that when you're giving that floor for someone to speak into your life, they are the right person to speak into your life. And
environment again.
If you have a faith, then obviously that is one major sector where you're going to get a huge amount of answers that are deeply pure and very, very well rooted within you, and probably to some extent not necessarily even relevant now. You might find they're relevant in 10 years time or something you grow into. But yeah, and regardless of what faith you've got, I think faith generally is a good thing. But yeah, look for answers and find out what it is, but avoid just Googling it, YouTubing it. If it's a practical, technical thing, sure. If it's about you, speak to the people you know. Definitely take a longer look in the mirror and have a bit of a think.
And something you said as well that I want to touch on briefly. We never actually spoke about it before, but you said that a lot of people don't actually take that time to themselves. They don't actually spend the time with themselves. And that's something that I've realized. And it's something I've realized because I always am consuming something. I remember you spoke about how
or you're reading or you're exercising.
Exactly. Like, and I'm doing something cool, productive. There's always there was a purpose behind something, but there is always something going on. And even when you said, like, I wanted to touch on this earlier as well, actually, you said at one point, everything you was consuming was property. You were doing the courses, you would listen to the podcast, you were reading the books, you were going to these places, And because of that, we could even touch on the fact that you become what you consume, right? You turn into what you tune into. It's exactly what you are, what you eat. And literally that was your mental diet, right? So you became what you ate. But even back to what I was saying before, not everyone is quiet. Like, people don't actually quiet themselves, and in that dark room, as you kind of skips over, but still, like, no one actually goes into that dark room with themselves, sits down and has quiet. No one has mental quiet. I don't experience that mental quiet. There's always something going on. There's an advertisement across the road, bow, 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 red, yellow, McDonald's, woo, buy fries. There's this siren going on, police siren over here. Mum screaming, telling you to go empty the dishwasher. Dad's telling you to go take out the bins. There was
you walk
always
down
something.
the street in London at 3 a.m, you'll still see people.
Do you see what I'm saying?
It's a buzzing place, and humans are built to do stuff.
Constantly.
That's a different thing, but humans are built to work. And if you don't like getting up and working, you don't like putting the hours in, you feel lazy or whatever, like, or just generally you don't feel like you want to work that hard, like, let me just tell you something. Humans were built to work. They weren't built to do nothing. You'll find yourself die very quickly if you just do nothing. But yeah, the thinking for yourself is important. For me, I use the shower.
The what, sorry?
When I'm showering, that is my mental free space time.
That's where I get good ideas. That is where I get good ideas.
You've got quiet, you've got no phone on you, you're not like, you've got nothing there. It's just you. And for me, I love the relaxing sensation of the water over your head, and you can just kind of think a bit and you come up with ideas. Travel can be great as well, especially if you're driving on your own. Just straight up travel. I used to do so many hours on the motorway, going out and doing viewings and driving, and I had a lot of time to myself. And audiobooks and music for sure, but sometimes I just turn it off.
I thought about
and just spend 15-20 minutes just in my own thoughts. And it's funny because men and women have completely different brains, right? Men have got like boxes. Imagine like a big like shelf with loads and loads of boxes, and each box is for a different thing. Like, there's your family box, there's your football box, And when you want to talk about the subject, you go and get the box, and you never like start messing around with the boxes. But men have something which was a lot of people called the nothing box, and you've probably seen this online, like little memes or whatever. Men can literally just sit there, think about nothing and do nothing, just like a monk. Like a low power state, some people will say.
I could do that.
Like a standby mode.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Right, and women can't do that, right? And you often say, like, in marriage, like, there'll be a man just, like, doing nothing, and woman's like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, nothing, and, like, she just won't accept it.
Does that happen to you ever?
No, because she knows this. But, like, women cannot do that.
Big up Mel.
Physically.
Big up Mel, man.
Yeah, big up Mel for sure. Definitely one of the reasons I'm here today.
Wow, that's amazing.
Big up wifey, man.
For sure. But yeah, like, women can't do that. But men, we can. But we also have another box, which is like a me box, like a you box, which is all about you, where you're truly honest with yourself. And the key thing is when you're in that state where you're giving yourself a little bit of mental space, you have to be honest with yourself. And it's not based on what you've read or what you think you should be. That's even worse. You know, comparison is the thief of all joy. And when you start relying on that to define on who you are going to struggle. You need to be truly honest with yourself about what you're good at and what you're not good at. And those people who usually suffer with things like anxiety are not very good at looking at when they are good at something. They're not very good at identifying their strengths, but they're very quick at identifying their weaknesses. You know, and all it takes is for a few people just to speak some words of wisdom and some healthy, you know, guidance into that, or a little light bulb to go off, or, you know, someone to move in their life, and they get that, and then they can kind of hopefully build their way out of it. And obviously the same happens in reverse, right? But you've got to be honest with yourself and see both sides of it, and just take like a really neutral view. The same way if you were going to do an investment and everyone says, you know, business is not about emotion, you just got to look at it, it is what it is. You got to kind of look at yourself in the same way during that moment and not judge yourself as to how good or bad you might be at any given thing. You just got to be honest and open, accept you are who you are, and that, yeah, you're wonderfully gifted. And ultimately, we're all unique. We are all the minority. There is no one else truly like you anyway. So there is always something that you can offer that somebody else can't. An individual thing, maybe not. But as a collection of everything together, no one else has the same setup of balance of traits that you do. You know, so just be honest with yourself about what you're really good at, and that comes from just taking a little bit of time and just having that, what do you call it, the mental quietness.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really, really important, and you can find it wherever you want, and it doesn't have to be hours, and it is productive. It is still productive time, so don't feel guilty if you're like, you know, I'm going to spend 10, 15 minutes here, you know, just doing something else. And more often than not, you'll find it ends up leading to prayer anyway. But that kind of, that space there is super powerful, and you're right, you get most of your best ideas then. Your brain is free to think, and it's free to just, you know, kind of go where it needs to go, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful time. You'll feel refreshed as well. You'll feel less stressed. There's loads of benefits of it. But don't just be flat out the whole time. You know, take a little break. You know, and I don't mean like break from work. Oh, I need to take downtime now. I just mean like get yourself 10 minutes of mental space. Your brain is still super active when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, your body gets to rest when it sleeps, in my opinion. But yeah, the waking side, you still got to find some mental space from all of that, and allow yourself not to cling on to your day to day and what you're doing. Just
schedule.
Yeah.
And I'd say off the back of that, just like an actionable step for you is to literally, I don't even know, find a brick wall, the ceiling, just look somewhere, just something plain, just look at it for even like 5 to 10 minutes. Just look at it, see what happens.
And close your eyes.
See what happens. Even dark room, as we said before, see what happens. See what you think about. Get a notepad, matter of fact.
I like that one.
And anything that comes to your mind, maybe you write it down. You might discover things about yourself that you weren't even thinking initially. You didn't even think was on your mind, but you can write it down and you actually see the stuff on a piece of paper. And you feel like it's a release as well. When you take all this stuff that's off your mind, all these little boxes and stuff, and maybe there might be things outside of the boxes that need to be put back in the boxes, or you might have to examine. You get to take those and you get to write it down on paper.
Yeah. And it might be 6 months before, like, you might ask yourself a question about, like, oh, okay, why do I feel this way about this thing, for example? And you might not know the answer to that, and that's cool. And you might know the answer the next time you look at it. But you know, every time you go into that space with just openness and relax, like a relaxed state with no judgment. And it might be 6 months and you haven't even thought about it, and then suddenly you just get an answer. You know, so just be patient with it and let it do what it's got to do. It's not some weird and wonderful thing, but I think it's just important if you're trying to find who you are, understand what you're good at, just take real time for you then. You know, stop trying to find the answer on Instagram or with your mates or in the pub. Like, you're not going to find the answers there. The answer is probably within you, so take some time to listen to yourself. And 10 minutes in a 24-hour day.
Yeah, what is that?
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
You can waste that with a couple scrolls on Instagram.
Easy.
The thing is that the world today is always competing for our time.
So is it sorry?
The world today is always competing for our time.
Yes.
We have to be very intentional with just saying, no, it's me time now. One thing I like to do, John knows about this too, like or one day in a week, usually Thursdays, just me, just chilling in my study, just there, just free, because Monday to Sunday is all just doing stuff with the purpose led, doing my coaching stuff, working, gymming. Yeah. There's no time for you, and the world can get very, very busy, but it's up to you to be intentional to have that downtime, whether that be at 10 minutes on a day-to-day basis, or maybe just one day, just allot it to just hours of just you, and just no one can get through to you. Yeah. Those things are important to make sure that you stay mentally in the right place, man. Because it's difficult, man. It's really difficult. But those moments there just for you, and you can really help you understand who you are, and it helps you have that bit of peace on a day-to-day basis, man. It's helped me. So that's one big tip I would say there. But one thing I want to touch on, actually, you spoke about patience just a minute ago. And I know you at the start of the episode now, you're talking about how in the area you're in property, which is developing, patience is an important thing, as we know. Yeah. Patience is a virtue. I really like that point there, because when people think about property, they just think about 5 months in, make all these millions, and then you'll be happy days, right? But my question to you, right, is how did you nurture the spirit of patience in a field where money is such a clear end goal in a short space of time? How do you nurture that?
It's a work in progress, so I don't have all the answers. I already said it, comparison's a thief of all joy. The first thing you've got to make sure is you're not looking at other people and seeing where their progress is and wondering why you're not there. It's useful to see what other people are doing, and it's good to understand your marketplace, but it's not, you should never be like, oh, well, they're there, why am I not there? Because that's never going to help you, both from a patient's point of view, but just generally. It's not help you. So that's that side of it. The other one is your expectations. Manage your own expectations as well as managing the expectation of everybody else you're with. When are you actually expecting things to get done? What do you expect it to look like when it's done? Your expectations will determine your satisfaction when you get to that point. So you need to set those in a way that is healthy, that allows you to grow, that allows you to enjoy the moment when you get there. So like expectations. If you think a deal's going to take 2 years, best case, assume it's going to take 3.
Yeah,
you've already made your job 33% easier from a patient's point of view. So because if you're prepared to wait 3 years, it only takes 2, happy days. So I think your expectation is very important. The other side of it, for me at least, and I have no idea how healthy this is, I keep myself busy. I don't allow myself to think about it. If something's 2 years away, that's a problem for 2 years. I don't need to deal with it right now. If there's something I need to deal with, then I'll do it. But ultimately, that thing that is down the line, if I keep myself busy in the present and I always remain present in what it is I'm doing, then I don't need to worry about everything else. Because as I said already, men have got boxes. I'm in that box right now on this podcast. I'm not thinking about my dev sites or whatever else is going on in my life. I couldn't even answer the question. I'm not in that space. In the same way, if I'm on the phone with an investor doing this particular deal that's happening over the next few weeks or months, I'm not thinking about something that's happening in 2 years' time. I don't need to. So you can give yourself that breathing, that freedom, that space in your brain if you keep your focus where it needs to be, and if you keep yourself busy. Like I say, you can't do that 24 hours a day, all day, every day. There will be times where your mind might wander. But I think the present thing is really important because it transfers into your personal life too. Are you present with the people you're with? And people say it all the time, you look across at a restaurant, you see how many people are sat on their phones rather than having a conversation. How present, it's nuts, man. How present are you? Because that time is valuable. And there's no shortage of TV shows or films that kind of teach this lesson, that when people get to their old age, they're not interested in what they saw on Instagram 20 years ago. They're interested in the times that they didn't have with the people that they love. And being present generally will help you with that, because if you're truly present, you're not actually thinking about everything else that's going on. It can be hard if you're stressed or you have problems to solve, 100%.
Because your mind is constantly going.
Yeah, and if you do have a problem to solve, you should, in theory, be wanting to solve it.
Yeah.
Rather than doing whatever else you're doing. But then you come back to your priority list, right? And what is important to you at any given time, and generally speaking. So, I don't know the true answer to how you nurture patience. I think for me, it's a lot of practical steps, along with almost forcing myself to get there in the sense that, let's say you go out and do some squats, right? You do some minor damage to your quads so that they can grow back bigger. In the same way, I'm sitting through something uncomfortable in the patient's side. And where possible, I won't allow something to move faster if this is what I'm looking for. If I'm looking to really grow my patience, there are times when I won't make something move quicker because I want to force myself to wait it out, to see it through and to build some of that patience. But yeah, it's a mix of all of that, and it's a work in progress. And the question was like, what's the chapter of the book like right now? I mean, I have no idea when the chapter ends even to be able to kind of fully answer it. But it is a virtue, and I think it's something that you will master over many, many years, and something you get better at. And no doubt, when I have kids, there'll be a whole new revelation that comes with patience.
James Genius.
No time soon. But on that front, I think life generally will help you on that front, and your focus and perspective will change. But manage your expectations and be present.
Yeah,
that's what's helped most for me.
In terms of being present, how do you remain present with your wife? And how do you switch off? Because for me, obviously I ain't got a wife, whatever, but then it's hard for me to switch off regardless. Like, I'm always thinking about something because I think, who was it that said it? Someone said, like, when you're an entrepreneur, you work from when you wake up to when you go to sleep.
Within reason.
Because it's always on your, obviously, depending on the stage that you're at, but at the start, it's a lot of the time like that.
Oh, when you're starting out, yeah. And I would go as far as saying that even if I was married now and I was starting out now, I'd have a very serious conversation with my wife about how it's going to be, practically managing expectations. But I'd be like, look, I'm going to have to spend 16 hours a day, every day for the next 8 weeks, maybe next 8 months.
Wow.
That's what it's going to look like. However, and then you have a chat with them, because obviously there are probably a few things they're going to come back with, right? We'll start listening to them. And at that point, it's between you two as to how you're going to make that work. Now, these days, I don't have to do the 5 a.m. starts the way I used to. I don't have to do the 18-hour days. There will be a few days here and there for sure where I'll pull 16, 18 hours, whatever it has to be. But other days could be a little bit short, and I've only got to do 6 or 7 hours. That also comes down to the speed in which you work and how much you can get done and your efficiency. But yeah, so for me, it's literally a case of being present. Every time she comes to the door when she gets back from work, if I'm on the phone, I'll mute and say hello or whatever. If not, I'll come in, I'll greet her, welcome her through, say hello. Threshold moment, as she would call it. But it's
we say threshold moment.
Threshold moment.
What's that?
Like when they go home from work, saying how they're doing. When you first get up in the morning, are you saying hello to them before you're going on Instagram, stuff like that?
Little things, but
for a man, it won't mean as much. On average, generally speaking. For a lot of women, that means the world, because it gives an insight into where your focus really lies, and they just want to know that you are a central core part of their life, and in theory they are. So like that's kind of where that bit comes down.
In theory, in real life,
in real life too, I would say, but there's a lot of less exemplar marriages, shall we say? Like there's a lot of bad cases for it. So I think it's important, that you just do that. Whilst there's no rule that we can't use our phone, like if we're going out for a meal or whatever, like it inherently has always been low. And we've always kind of had a rule since like day one. It's like, we're present, and because it was long distance to begin with, I didn't have the 3, 4, 5 times a week for an hour or two at a time. For us, it was like 2 weeks, and we wouldn't see each other, and then it'd be like 3 days.
Okay.
So naturally, like you had this moment where you're gonna want to see them anyway.
Yeah, of course.
And you want to be present with them, and then you go and spend time with them. For me, it'll get past a certain point. I'll have done what I wanted to get done for that day, and something could come up. Fine, in the evening it comes up, I get it done. Alternatively, like if you don't ring me, then whatever you're after can't be that important. If you message me, you really can't be that bothered about it. You'll get it when you get it, or probably based on the fact that I respond. If it's during the day, within an hour, nearly always. If it's in the evenings or whatever, then it might be that evening. It could be the following morning. But if you really want me, you'll ring me, and I'll just look at the number and decide whether or not I'm going to answer in an evening, depending on what I'm doing and what's going on. And yeah, during certain periods, like obviously I had the honeymoon not long ago. I was still on the phone.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Wait, how long ago was that?
June.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, recent.
Yeah, it's super recent.
What did you do for the honeymoon?
Went to Hawaii.
Ooh.
Yeah, man.
Ooh. Hawaii.
That's so good. It's so good. And for me, it was great, like, because it's properly in the tropics, but because it's literally in the middle of nowhere, it's only like 28, 30 degrees. But it's like 10 out of 10 on the UV side of it, so you still get a tan super fast. It's still warm.
Yeah.
But it's not like super hot. You know, not like going to the Middle East where it's like 45 degrees.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
That's horrible. Like, it's still breathable, and you're on the coast. The air's fresh. We went to Hawaii, and I did some work while I was out there. You know.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, man.
On site work or like
no,
as in I was out there.
I don't know if you. Yeah, but I'm saying like, was there developments out there? But like, I don't know what the vibe is.
I did browse an estate agency while I was out there. I had to, you know, just
always on, like always. You know what I'm saying?
I'm curious. And the houses are different. The way they live is different, and I just generally found it quite interesting. That was kind of an insight into the culture as well.
Okay.
But when I was there, I'd be on the phones speaking to investors, like trying to sell a few deals, funding some projects. We were at completion on one of our dev projects in Edinburgh. So
you're paying for the trip.
Yeah. Exactly.
And a bit more.
Did I say that's some profit?
Yeah. The time zone worked out really nicely for me because it meant for me to actually be speaking to people during a reasonable hour here. It was like early in the morning, 5 to 7 a.m. or like late at night for me, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night when she was probably asleep. So, but there'd still be the odd bit during the middle of the day. And I'm just like, look, I need to work for an hour. And she's like, she fully respects it because she understands where I want to be. She understands the dream. And I mean, practically, it's obviously in her interest too, right?
Yeah.
Within reason, the more successful I am, the more successful she is. Yeah. So, like, it's also helpful for her, and it gives us more options generally as a family, and ultimately, you know, as
a collective,
you know, husband and wife, you should support each other through everything, and that, you know, kind of underpins a lot of it.
Is she into property also?
To an extent, she doesn't kind of find it riveting the same way I do, and she kind of vaguely understands I say vaguely, she understands what's going on. She understands what the strategies are. I could talk to her about stuff. She might not know some of the intricacies, or specifically, you know, she doesn't have any experience raising finance or anything like that. But she's found a few deals in the past, and she's got some money in one of the dev projects that we've got going on.
Oh wow!
And by day, she's a QS, so she's familiar with the construction industry on a much larger scale than I am.
Oh, quantity surveyor.
Yeah. Okay. So they basically tell developers how much it's going to cost to build a specific building.
Right.
Wow.
And a few additional pieces that go with that. But she's working for a pretty major developer down here in London.
Okay.
On some like £1 billion sites. Like,
that's dope.
Serious big, yeah.
That's
pretty
amazing.
cool.
It's inspired by her?
Yeah. Less so in the career sense, because I mean she enjoys what she does to a point. But her as a person, and like especially her emotional intelligence, her insight into other people, just her welcomingness, like, oh yeah, I adore it. It's
wow.
It's so powerful to see in action. You know, there are some people who just can't have a conversation with a stranger, and then there are some people that you can't not have a conversation with. And Mel is one of those people. You know, she'll walk into the room, she'll smile, and just lights up the room, and she can have a conversation with anybody, and everyone always loves her. I haven't met anybody who doesn't like her.
Wow.
You know, like she's one of those people. Talk about opposites. I met plenty of people who don't like me. So you know, like she's so wonderful and soft and caring. You know, and yeah. So yeah, I do admire her.
Amazing stuff, man. And then okay, so we asked the same thing to Eman actually as well. When you know Eman Effect, the guy that was hosting, we asked him as well, like what made her stand out, because there's so many women in this world. Too? Yeah, he is. Yeah, and kids, right?
Yeah, he's got
kids. Yeah,
how old is he?
36. I don't want to say anything wrong, bro.
No,
I think he's 37.
He's like, he's like.
For some reason, I just assumed he was one of the Gen Z guys.
He's a young man. He's a young man in my books.
Wow.
He's a young man.
He's a cool guy,
37,
though.
Yeah.
So what made you? Because there's a lot of women out here.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we're outnumbered on this planet.
Yeah.
What made you pick Mel?
Yeah, that's the wars for you recently. Some countries have it worse than others. I saw kind of everything, really. I guess you don't go looking for a partner or a wife or whatever, just like, I'm not going to go out and look for one and pick one off the shelf. Like, it doesn't work that way. And you to an extent, there'll be things you want to look for. That's more just things that you know that generally speaking, you're going to hit off on. Or and some of those will be really important. Some of them will be things you'd like to have, right? So that, I wouldn't say there's a checklist per se, but everybody looks for something. You know what you want within reason. You might not want someone who's 50 years older than you, for example. There's some very clear things that you could be like, yeah, okay, I want that or the other. I was not looking for a relationship at the time. Neither was Mel.
But how old are you when you guys met then?
20.
Wow. Okay. So this is what? So to put it back into the timeline, right? This is like
January 18.
Is it 2 years into? This is 1 year into your whole property
It was like 2 weeks after my first property course.
Wow. Okay. But as you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, I was at a dedication, so it's a bit like a christening, and I was there supporting some family members there completely by accident, and she walked through the front door, and genuinely I was like, she's fine. And yeah, like she just came over and we started having a chat. I was there with my dad or whatever, and we were just having a conversation, and then kind of it transpired that we were all going for food afterwards. And I was hoping to like sit next to her, strike up a conversation, get you know, the standard stuff. It doesn't start any different. And knowing her family now in classic fashion, turns up like 45 minutes late. I've basically finished my main at this point.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite funny. And then she sits down at a different table. So there's like one long table for all of us. And I guess because numbers, whatever, she was sat on a different one with all the girls. There was like 5 of them.
Wow.
You know, and just like sat there nattering. I could hear them laughing at the thing. And I was obviously speaking to people I was. And we got up to leave right at the end. And I thought, oh, man, I've got to say hello, right? It's now or never. And this was before I had my rule about fit. But I was still like, sure not, you know. And I thought, yeah, let's just go over and say hello and basically ask for her details in front of like all the girls. It was proper nerve-wracking. I remember it now. And funny story, and she'll hate me for telling this. She said yes, and I hope it was for the right reasons. But afterwards, I found out that when she was speaking with me, she thought I was some like long-lost member of the family because her older sister's husband is white. So he just assumed that. She just assumed that I was one of his cousins or something.
Okay. But who's white in the family? Her long lost.
No, her older sister's husband. So her older brother-in-law.
Her older sister's. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they had kids, and that was why I was at the dedication. And obviously she was there supporting her sister, who's the mum.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So she just thought that I was some like
his family or something.
Yeah, that she didn't know, so she didn't want to like be disrespectful or anything. And you know how it is in African culture, like you got to know everybody, you got to speak to everyone.
Yeah.
So she was kind of speaking to me because of that. And then she asked us, she's like, you know, who's this James guy? Like, is he cousin? Like, what's this? And he was like, no, just like effectively a random bloke. Like, you know, who is this guy? And she was like, oh, and then I think at that point she got a new perspective of like why I was messaging her. I nearly screwed it up and stuff, and you know, it was the classic. And then we kind of hung out a few times over the next few months and grew closer, and then in April, you know, formally asked her out. And then
4 months afterwards.
Yeah.
Wow. Efficient.
Efficient.
You're an efficient man.
Efficient man.
Yeah. And then 4 years later,
the short wait.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
I like that.
That's very amazing.
3 and a bit years, just over 3 years later.
I like that.
And here you are, just after a way.
There you go.
That's crazy. Question, right? Obviously, away from the relationship stuff, right? If someone said to you right now, yeah, James, because you're doing developing stuff, you've done crazy stuff. If someone said to you, James, I'm starting from scratch right now, yeah, how do I start this journey of property, especially in the area you're in? What do you suggest to them? What would be your tips?
Sure. Step 1, find out what you like doing and what you love, right?
Okay.
There are different aspects of real estate, and specifically within development. Development is a massive, massive industry. I can't kind of over-exaggerate just how big it is, you know. It includes things like infrastructure, building motorways or hotels.
All right.
Like resorts, building islands, like new land that you'll see in like Macau or Dubai or whatever. So
building islands,
like so in Macau, for example, that's the only place in China where you're legally allowed to gamble, and the amount of space they have within the border of that little province is limited, and they ran out of space. They wanted to build some more casinos and things, so they literally dug up dirt, plonked it in the sea, and made the land bigger so they could build more houses. That's still development. That's part of development. So it's a huge aspect of it.
Damn.
Like there's a lot that you can do in all sorts of areas. You know? So find out what it is that you like and what you love. For me, it's residential. That's kind of where I get my kicks.
Okay.
Why is that?
I understand it, and there's a lot of crap houses. I'd love to be someone who like kind of helps and brings more houses to it. There's a massive housing shortage, especially in this country. Huge housing shortage. People always moan about the fact they can't buy a home, or can't find a home, there's nowhere to rent, nowhere to live. Like, it's because there's not enough people building. You know, and 20 years ago, it was around about 52% of new build houses were built by your top 10 developers. These days, it's 92%.
Wow.
So your Persimons, your Taylor Wimpey's, etc., they're putting up 10,000 houses a year. Like, don't get angry at them. If they stop, there ain't anyone else to come and fill that gap. And was it when Tories came to power, they said we're going to build 500,000 homes a year, and everyone loved that. We haven't quite got close enough, but still, you know, there's a big need for housing. So I think that was kind of it. That, and I naturally fell into it because before you get into development, you've got to have some grounding of how it actually works. And a flip is the perfect way to start if you actually want to end up in development, because you buy an asset cheap, you do some work to it, and then you sell it for a profit. In this case, like a 2-bed house, you buy for 50K, you spend 25 grand
50K?
Fine.
Where are these places?
You buy a 2-bed house for 500 grand.
Oh, that's
you spend 100 grand on it, and you sell it for 700K, right?
Okay.
So you make 100 grand profit.
Yeah.
Well, in the development space, you might buy a land for 500 grand. You might spend 10 million building on it, and then you sell it for like 15 million. And so it's the same thing, just on a bigger scale. Instead of doing a little refurb, you're like physically building whole houses, or converting old buildings or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So starting on the low end is really, really useful, because how you value an individual house is the same way you value 10 houses. You just do it 10 times. Working out, calculating refurb costs is kind of the same thing. You work out how much it costs to plaster the room, how much it's going to be for a new boiler, how much it's going to be to rewire the place or paint it or floor it or whatever. And you do the same thing on a development. It's just now you got to include things like groundworks and foundations and drainage and extra bits that you got to put on. So it's the same process. It's the same rules, and the financing is very similar as well. It's also much easier to do because you need a lot less money. So the barrier to entry is significantly lower. But if you're looking to get started in property, I think there's probably... find out what it is you want to do, and residential is probably going to be the way that most people go. It's most access for training and things as well. Second thing is, I would say get trained one way or another, whether that's a personal mentor, finding yourself some training courses, or just freewheeling it with books and podcasts and asking people for help and understanding that you're probably going to fail your way to success. That's okay. All right, that's how the original people did it before they put courses together. A lot of it is relatively straightforward if you think about it, and you start ringing up and asking people the questions. And as soon as you learn which person you need to ring to answer the question, life becomes a lot easier. You want to know how much a house is going to sell for? Where would you go?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, either of you.
If I want to know how much a house is going to sell for, where would I go?
If you're just a normal person, what would you do?
I would go and look on...
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would look on. Right. I would look online, and I would just type it up.
So you can use online tools, and they're great, and that'll make your life easier when you get into it. But step one is just ring an estate agent. You want to know how much your house will rent for? Ring an estate agent. So if you're looking at a house you want to buy, and you don't know how much it's going to rent for, ring a few letting agents who are local, find out what it rent for. You now know what the rent is in that area for that kind of house. So some of it you don't need to be taught within reason. If you kind of think a little bit about it, you should be able to piece it together. The common strategies people are going to want to look at are things like rent to rents and deal sourcing and all that. That's great. And I'm not putting anybody off that. If you're already doing it, crack on. All strategies make money. One is not better than the other. However, if I was starting again, I'd just do joint ventures. JVs all day long. When you first think about investing in property, what you think about is owning a house, having tenants, getting that passive income, being a landlord. Yeah. Don't forget that. Because I overlooked it for 2 years when I was deal sourcing, and I was living a good life, and I was making good money. And I thought,
can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
I forgot that kind of picture, that it was the first thing that really kind of got me into property was that passive income side. Okay. Deal sourcing is not passive. Rent to rents are passive for about 3 years, and they may not even be passive if you're self-managing. After that, that's gone. You want something that lasts lifetimes, generations, that does not fail. That's what passive income is for. That's when you can do what you want when you want. You get that from rents. So you need to accumulate houses. And the easiest way of doing that is borrow money from someone for like 10 years at like 10%, find a deal that you can buy with that 10%. Oh, sorry, with that money you've borrowed. That makes like 20%. So obviously if you're making 20 and only paying out 10, there's a bit of profit left for you, right? There you go. That 10% is for you. And on a rental property, you can make them passive pretty easy. I did a couple of videos on my YouTube about it for a more detailed version. But
check out his YouTube.
Thank you. Or like literally anybody else. Like some people talk about passive income from rents. It's relatively straightforward. And loads of people become accidental landlords, or if they get married and they're a little bit old and they've both already got a house and they keep one, they rent the other one out or whatever, or inheritance or whatever it might be. So yeah, do joint ventures like that. Or if you've got a little bit more to it, use the homes under the hammer, the flip style model, but instead of selling it at the back end, take refinance it. So take a mortgage out at its new higher post refurb value. And if you do the deal correctly and you buy it at the right price in the first place and work all the numbers out, the amount of money you get from the mortgage at the back end can be equal to or even more than the amount of money you spent buying it and refurbing in the first place. Wow. We call that a buy, refurb, refinance. So you keep 25% equity.
BRR.
A BRR.
Okay.
So you buy it for like, I'm going to use low numbers again. Buy it for 50.
Yeah.
You spend 20 grand on it or 25 grand on it. It's worth 100. The bank will give you a 75% mortgage. They'll give you 75k. Well, that pays back your 50 and it pays back your refurb. And if an investor paid for that in the first place, so they pay for it, they give you the 75k, you do the deal, you get the 75 grand back from the mortgage, you give them that, give them another couple of grand from your own savings or earnings or whatever. And then you got a house for free that you can keep yourself. I stick a tenant in forever. And that's wonderful. So there's a couple of ways that I would do it, but I really recommend the joint venture route. And in essence, you need three things. You need a deal, which you can buy from someone, from a deal sourcer.
From a deal sourcer, right?
If you don't know how to do that, or find yourself one. But it's
a good skill to have, no?
It's a fantastic skill to have. And ultimately, even if you don't find your own deals, you still need to know what a good deal is. You still need to know how to appraise a deal. So you need to know what houses are worth and how to work that out. You need to know how to work out refurbs and stuff like that. And a lot of this, you want to work out how refurbs work, same way you work out how rents work. Go speak to someone who knows about refurbs, i.e. a builder. Just get a load of bills, have a look at your houses and get a number of quotes back, and then you get a price back. Bob's your uncle. Don't overcomplicate things. There are faster, swifter ways of doing it. As you get better, you'll be able to start rattling off prices yourself. But if you don't know what you're doing, don't overcomplicate it. Just have someone who does know how to do it for you. Outsource. That's what all the smart people do anyway, right? Second one is you're going to need the money. So you need a network, find someone with money. And to this day, I have never been wrong with this. Every single person who's listening to this right now or who sees this already has an investor in their phone book. They probably just don't know it. Could be a family friend, could be a relative, could be someone you went to school with. Ring every number in your phone. Have a chat with them, see if they've ever been interested in investing in property and find out if they have any cash.
Wow.
Someone will. And it doesn't have to be physical cash in the bank. It could be an ISA, it could be a pension, it could be a SAS, it could be equity in their own home. It could have cars they're planning on selling you don't even know about. They might have an inheritance coming through you didn't know about. Like, people have money and just don't tell you. We don't talk about money here in the UK. So you got to physically ask people if they have it.
And they're just waiting for something to do with it.
Yeah. More often than not. Or they're sat making 2% or more likely 0.1% in the bank. Yeah. Or they've got an ISA making 2-3%. Yeah. Inflation's at 9.9. You offer them 10. You're at least matching inflation.
Yeah.
And you can still do a deal of your own. Or if they don't want to do a deal with you and they don't want to take a fixed return, go harvest the profit. Or sell the deal to them and take $4,000 and be $4,000 better they're off than you were before. A percentage of something's better than 100% of nothing.
Yes, indeed.
And don't get bogged down with your first joint venture on that front. If they want 99% profit margin and that 1% for you is still making you $20,000, do it. Why not? So,
and it's proof of concept as well.
Proof of concept, yeah.
Like that first deal that you got, it's proof of concept.
Yeah, you work your way up. I mean, the first deals we were offering out, we were offering super low sourcing fees, and first JVs and stuff I was doing, giving away loads of money. Now, sure, I'm in a different position. I can demand different things, but you still have to work with people and negotiate, and all that kind of just gets a little bit easier within reason. And you've done it before, and you know what's going on, and you have more experience, and you've got past examples, but it's exactly the same thing. Just rinse and repeat. And the reason I say do it that way is, in the long run, you'll probably make less mistakes, you'll lose less money, and you have an easier life. 2, capital gains is what makes people rich. Cash flow, which is what you get from rent to rents and deal sourcing, is lovely. And it can give you a wonderful life, and it allow you to take those photos and put them on Instagram and make you look super successful. But I'm telling you, capital gains is what makes people rich.
Only thing I know about capital gains is capital gains tax. That's the only thing I know about capital gains.
Right. Well, let's say real world example. I bought a house for 65k.
Okay.
I was spending £38,000 on it. And I thought it was going to be worth about 130k.
Cool.
I bought this November 2020, I think, give or take. I didn't have the cash to refurb it. Doing some other bits. I thought, it's fine. Sit it for a couple of months. I'll do it then. Bought it cash. So I'm not paying any mortgage interest or anything like that. A few months go by. I start the refurb. I get to the end of the refurb. COVID had already happened at this point. What happened in 2020 through till now in the house price market? It shot through the roof. I sold that house in August, just gone for 170 grand.
That's a nice.
I made 40 grand doing nothing.
That's a nice little bit.
Just by holding.
Just by holding.
Just by holding it.
Just by holding.
40 grand.
Actually, that's something I wanted to touch on as well. I want to touch on the COVID part.
Go on.
Because I know COVID, like that whole situation, like the 2020, 2021, that was a big period for you.
Oh, it's crazy.
For a couple of reasons. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so 2020 started off pretty insane. January, Feb, March, I could sell anything. It was nuts.
Like Midas touch, everything you touch is gold.
Yeah, I think we did something like 110 grand in 3 months.
That's all right.
110 grand in 3 months.
That's
it was nuts, mate. That was more than I made in my first year.
110 grand in 3 months.
That's all right.
It was crazy. This cost, obviously. But yeah, like that was ludicrous. Wow. And then our emails go out every Tuesday, or went out every Tuesday. 23rd of March, Monday, 7 p.m, lockdown. Email goes out Tuesday morning. Having just sold anything, like stuff just flying out.
Through the email list.
Through the email list. No responses. It was literally like someone turned off the tap. I was chatting on Clubhouse about this with a guy called TJ, way back when Clubhouse was bopping.
TJ, High Top.
TJ, a Life or a Leaf or whatever his name is.
Yeah, High Top. Big up
cool
TJ,
guy.
Man. Yeah, we spoke to him back in the day. You might not remember. We spoke to him.
He was great on Clubhouse. I loved his energy.
Yeah.
Energy always talks. But yeah, and him and I were talking about this, and it was like something was broken. I genuinely thought, has email gone out? Like, is it just not sent or something? Like, it just died. That's because everyone was like, what the hell do we do now? The entire world was like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to work. The whole world just stopped for 2 weeks flat. And for the first time, I had a little bit of mental space, which was great. And I could recoup and think about what I was going to do. And that ultimately ended up me pivoting into development and moving out of sourcing. But it still gave me, that's kind of during that period is when I got it, because I had loads more free time because I wasn't doing as many deals. I was generally less busy.
Oh, I see.
And it was through COVID then that I had that time to do it, but it just went quiet. It just went cold. And I kind of had to regain everything and go through it all. And it was funny, so people pulling out of deals, being like, oh, I don't want to do it now because of COVID, don't do this because of COVID, don't do that because of COVID. The force majeure clause came back in full force during 2020. Anyone who's running a business will know what I'm on about. And yeah, like it just went mad and everyone was pulling out. And I was like, there's a lot of printing going on right now, a lot of quantitative easing. They're handing out helicopter money. They're just giving money to anybody with a business, just 50 grand, have it. No requirements, no checks, no affordability. You could open a company today and get a 50 grand loan the following day that you didn't have to pay back. And actually, you were going to pay it back anyway because the government were going to pay it back to the banks and the government using taxpayers' money, so you were paying for it anyway. So like, yeah, like they just gave you free money.
During COVID.
And I'm like, during this period, the only thing that's going to happen is real estate is going to go up because inflation will increase when government expenditure increases. Therefore, house prices will go up. I mean, I knew it was going to crash at some point, and I was wildly off. I thought it was going to be like December 2020, not like December 2022. But nonetheless, I thought it's going to go up first. So I was still happy to buy. I did not see it going up as much as it did. It flew. And actually, if you look at the growth charts between now and 2008, they're almost identical. So it's really nice to just kind of see how that works. You've got a nice smooth curve. And then just before the recession, they go poof. And they go poof. And they come back again. And if you cut that little bit out, you've actually just got a really nice smooth curve.
Yeah.
So you just got an inflation beforehand, then a recession, and then it'll pick up again afterwards. I mean, London doubled between 2010 and 2014. Some areas tripled in value. So if you had a house worth 500 grand in London in 2010, by 2014 it was worth $1 million.
Wow.
In 5 years, I don't care how good your rent-to-rent deal is. I don't care how many deals you sell. You're not going to do it that fast or that well as you can with cap gains. And cap gains are scalable from one end of the spectrum, a 25 grand house, up to several hundred million or billion pound units. And it's completely passive. You don't do anything. You just let the government keep printing. You let the fiat system crack on. House prices go up in value. You don't have to do anything. You just live your life.
And then you see where that point where you said it like turned off, like that tap turned off.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the lowest point of your journey?
I think
everyone was
before I got into property, that was probably harder for me than it was during that moment.
Okay.
But 2020 was a really rough year for me. Yeah. Just mentally, like just so stressful because I disagreed so much with what was going on, not from, a COVID point of view, but in terms of just the way it was managed and the way it was handled. And I'm an entrepreneur. I naturally don't deal well with authority and systems. And then on top of that, like I was being stopped from doing what I want to do, which I hate. Like Mel knows that she can't come over to me if I'm mid-email.
Yeah.
Like you let me finish that.
Yeah.
Like you can say something being like, just, when you finish that email, give me 2 minutes. I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'll carry on, finish it. I'm like, right, now you have my full attention. Okay. Don't stop me halfway. Okay. And when I couldn't go out and do viewings, or I couldn't drive around and do this, or I couldn't do that, it just angered me that my freedom was being impeached so much that I couldn't go out and do what I need to do. And not even like just go and live my best life. I mean like going out and being productive and adding value to the economy and to myself. This is not me trying to just go out and party. This is like I wanted to do business. So it was really frustrating for me during that period. And then obviously, generally speaking, business was a lot tougher after that. Life as a whole was rough. And the other problem was I've been waiting 5 years for a recession. Like I have been waiting for this because 9 out of 10 millionaires are major in a recession. There is more opportunity in a recession than anywhere else. Everything I'm going to say now, you'd have heard 100 times. 100%. Warren Buffett's like, when people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful.
Yeah.
Like the general mindset of all entrepreneurs and about all business opportunities, do the opposite what the masses are thinking. Well, during a recession, you have everybody slowing down. So there's one time to speed up. It is now.
Then, yeah, 100%.
And like I said, I've been waiting. And on one hand, I am so thankful that I'm at this position now where I have access to capital to take advantage on this than I was back when I started. Equally, you know, I've been waiting for this. So I'm quite excited now for what's going to be happening moving forward. It's obviously rough for a lot of people, and just generally speaking, it can still be tough within the real estate business, but there's a lot of opportunity about to come forward. So as long as you know what you're doing, you don't take too big of risks, there is unbelievable upside to be coming. I'm already seeing houses like 30% below market value. It's really sad, you know, because I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll see like my old schoolmates who've just graduated uni or just bought their first house and stuff.
Wait, how old are you, James?
I'm 25.
25.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years.
But I see people like buying their own homes, and I'm like, and I can look at them like, guaranteed they're new builds. I can tell by the age of the stonework and stuff, and I'm like, yeah. New builds, 10% overvalued the day that you buy them. If you then have a 10 or 15% market drop after that, you're now 25% down. If you got a 95% mortgage, you're now 20% in negative equity. You could lose your house any day. Everything you spent, all your stamp duty, if you paid it, certainly legal fees, the loans that you got from your family, like, and the Help to Buy scheme, man, is an equity loan. Oh my gosh. Like, it is the lines do get a bit blurry when you're looking at houses you buy for yourself and ones that you invest in. But when we're investing, we don't pay our mortgages off. We're interest only. We don't do capital repayment. The focus behind that and the reason behind that is if you, in my example before, 100 grand house, 75 grand mortgage, goes up to 200. You know, you now have 125 grand's worth of equity. Except in real world, that 75k has gone down in value. Yes, you're paying interest on it, but you're not paying interest on it. The tenant is. The actual value of that money has decreased over time. We all know that money loses its value over time. That's why you don't leave it in the bank. Well, that rate of decrease is called inflation. 9.9% right now here in the UK. That means every year, the real value of your money goes down by 9.9%. That goes for mortgages too. So that's 75k at current rates. This time next year will be worth 65 grand.
Yeah.
You just got 10 grand for free, or 10 grand worth of value anyway.
Hey, we'll come back to the same thing. We said patience.
Yeah, patience, the long way.
We'll come back to the thing, patience. But as you were saying, my man, please continue with the Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Robert Kiyosaki did a wonderful book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, where he talks about how your own home is not an asset, and primarily because of maintenance and running costs. As your house gets bigger, as a rule of thumb, if you want to buy like a £20 million mansion, about 1% the value of your house in running costs, staff, cleaning, etc., and utilities and everything else. If you buy in the right area and you have good cap gains, then in theory, yes, it can be. But normally, yeah, you would pay off your mortgage. That's also because of the way the debt is structured and some of the risks that go with it. So you probably do want to pay off your mortgage on your own home. But you see, in that example I gave, that is a fixed amount that decreases every year. The Help to Buy scheme gives you something called an equity loan, where the value of that debt is linked to the value of the house. So if you buy a house for 100 grand with a 75 grand mortgage, you go on Help to Buy, they give you 20 grand to top it up, and you put in your 5%. So you put in 5 grand, 20 grand from the government, 75 on a mortgage. That house is now worth 200 grand. The 75k mortgage is still only 75k. But because the house price has doubled, the equity loan from the government has also doubled. It's now 40 grand that you owe them.
Oh.
I did a video on this and I reworked the maths. And on average, I reckon the government are making around 8.5% per year on their money that they're giving on Help to Buy. That is insane.
8.8%.
8 to 8.5%, yeah.
They're entrepreneurs, man.
That is nuts. Like, that is nuts. Lloyd's Bank, they do a huge amount of buy-to-let mortgages. There are certain towns and cities that they won't give mortgages anymore because they have too many mortgages in one area.
Wow.
Lloyd's Bank are pretty much the largest landlord in the UK. Wow. You know, people are not stupid. Real estate has been around for a long time. Hell, back in Genesis, they were trading land. And land and houses are the same thing. Just a house has a bit more utility value than land. Land can be used to grow crops, or it can be used to look at or walk through. You know, houses can be used for multiple things, or buildings can be used for multiple things. Take this studio here, right? Recording music, and in here we're doing podcasts. They've got a little lounge, you know, all sorts. They do shows. So you got much more use with it, and hence why a building is worth more than land. But land has been around for a very, very long time, and shy of maybe water or oxygen. It's like it's one of the most key things. It's not going to lose it the same way you might lose stocks or even gold to some extent, although gold is very hard. land has been around forever, and we have a finite amount of land. So your supply and demand curves are very easy to understand. There's no more land. We're getting more people. We need more houses. That's why houses go up in value, and they will. But they're going up so fast at the moment just because of the way inflation's running. And you can benefit from that if you're putting money into property. Most people who invest in real estate make their money in banking or trading or e-commerce or in business doing something else, and then they take that lump of cash, they park it in real estate because houses are resistant to inflation. It means they hold their value over time, which is what you want from an investment, and that's the capital appreciation side. So yeah, those people who are getting started, it will be slow for the first few years. Bringing it back to the patience thing, you know, take your time and understand that, yeah, you're going to see people after 12, 24 months making 5-10 grand a month from their rent to rent and deal sourcing businesses, living their best life. I promise you in 10 years time, they will not still be doing that. They'll have burnt out, they'll have got tired of it, they won't want to do it anymore, or their contracts will be up, or they'll be selling bad deals, or whatever it might be. I promise you in 10 years time, they won't still be doing it. Or they'd have transitioned into buying houses for themselves. If you just start there, yeah, your first couple of years won't look quite as lavish as some other people, but in the long run, you will be better off. And when I say long run, I'm talking like 5-10 years. I'm not talking like 30 years here. And actually over a 30-year period, you know, growth is exponential. You've got a head start. You're going to be leagues ahead of them. And understand that every business journey goes like this.
Yeah, hockey stick.
Yeah. And then it goes up, and then it plateaus, and then it goes up. And you're going to have these plateau moments throughout, and then there will be a big period of growth afterwards.
Hockey stick indeed.
Yeah, exactly. Hockey stick. So be patient and understand how that works. And even after you've had a big period of growth, you know, there's going to be a flat point again afterwards. And then, yeah, you learn how to scale it, and you can move it a little bit quicker and stuff. But take your time, and I would say just buy houses. Getting on the housing ladder is a good thing, just not necessary for you to live in yourself.
Question, right? So obviously you said to us they were 25 years old, and you just mentioned a minute ago how people come to property from business backgrounds, e-commerce backgrounds, and they come in with the lump sums of money into property. I'm assuming that these people are older than you at 25 years old, right? Or some of them potentially the business people. So how is it like for you to come into to be in this world of property, being so young relatively to people around you?
Oh, that's a good question. I love it. Especially as I presume most of the audience are going to be relatively young.
Yeah.
You know, when you're at school, you didn't really mix with the years above or the years below. I mean, you might have done, but a lot of places.
Generally, it's just your year.
You just don't do it.
Yeah.
Age is massive. It's like, oh, they're 16. Oh, I'm 15. Oh, I'm the oldest in the year. You're the youngest, whatever. You get into the real world, no one cares about your age, man. Like, practically no one ever really said anything to me. I think it's partly because I knew what I was doing and I was coherent and articulate. But at the same time, no one really cares. And one thing I say to people all the time is like, you don't need experience to be right. It helps. It helps demonstrate that you're probably right, but you don't need it to be. You can still be right. You can still have a cracking deal that makes fantastic money and never have done one before. And don't even know if you've got a good deal. It can still be a good deal, so you can still sell it, you can still JV, you can still do what you want to do. So age was never really a massive thing for me. I've legitimately met people in property who are 14 years old doing deals.
Wow.
It makes sense.
Like, it is a people business. You don't need to know how to relate bricks. You don't need to understand the construction side of it if that's not your kettle of fish. It's a people business. It's building relationships, building rapport, understanding what people want, asking questions, you know, and then implementing what you learn. Implementation is incredibly key. And I think everybody you've had on here today, not today, but, you know, everyone you've had on this has probably spoken about implementation.
Action.
Yeah, action. It's the most important thing. Grant Cardone's like, massive action solves every problem. If you don't know what you're doing, and you have bills to pay or whatever, just stop picking up the phone and seeing what you can sell to someone. Someone will buy something from you. Like, it'll just happen. That's how you bring money in. And
it's a numbers game. Just like you were saying with you have an investor in your phone. Yeah. And that actually leads me on to one question I was actually going to ask. In terms of this kind of economic period that we're going into, what would be your keys in terms of like telling people how to get into this industry? Because as you said, it's a game of capital. Like you need capital. However, you don't always need capital. Am I right in saying that?
Capital always been needed to do a deal, but it doesn't have to be your own capital.
That's what I'm trying to say, yeah.
That's the key thing. I mean, right now I'm gearing up with a couple of very select clients with pretty large pots, and we're going to be buying a lot of houses over the next couple of years.
Lovely.
But just like very cheap. So let's say a house is worth 100 grand, we'll pick it up for 60, 65.
Damn.
Yeah.
35% below
or more.
value.
Yeah. 30% will be our cut-off. Anything above that, we're not interested. Even if it's 20, 25% below market value, I think I'll get a great deal. We won't buy it.
And it doesn't have to come out of your pocket?
No. I'll get fees on this. So this is more of a sourcing arrangement. But because of the amount we're going to be buying and like the fees on a per deal basis, it'll rack up relatively quickly and I'll be able to do a few of my own. I've also got a few houses coming to the end of the period of the deal where I'm going to get some capital return to me and I'll have some of my own money back to play with.
That makes sense. So what? Let me ask you a question, right? Yeah, and it's something we should always ask our guests as we wrap up now. I know it's been like plus an hour now.
Oh, it's been like hour 40.
Hour 40?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, it's been very, 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 very.
There's gonna be a strong edit on this.
Yeah. But yeah, no. The question we want to ask you, obviously, right now coming to a point where we're in a recession, which means you're gonna be profiting a lot. Mm-hmm. The question is, right? Is James happy with where he is right now on this journey?
I'm excited. Honestly, I'm too excited to know whether or not I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm too buzzing for what's around the corner, and I think so. Yeah, I am happy with it. There's always bits in your journey, right, that you wish went differently or went faster, and hindsight is always 20/20.
20/20.
But yeah, I'd say generally speaking, I'm happy. There's a lot to still be accomplished. There's a lot I still want to do. There's plenty of things I still want to move on to, and yeah. But generally speaking, I'm just itching to get going and exciting. And yeah, things turn very quickly in a week, which is pretty rare. But I'm kind of like, all right, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. You know, I've been waiting for this, and knowing it's been coming, seeing inflation rise throughout 2022, like I've been lining up clients with money who understand all of this. So when I'm having these conversations, I'm like, just park like 2 mil, stick it to one side for 6 months or 9 months, however long it is. When the market crashes, we are going to be buying, and we're going to be buying loads of stuff all over the place, any condition, any area. Just like as long as it's cheap, we'll have it. Because it's not about all the other stuff. We can solve all those problems, and yields start meaning less. And rents will double in the next 24 months.
Rents will double in the next 24 months.
Funny you said that, I saw something on Twitter today. Someone was talking
rents
about
always go up in a recession.
They were talking about how there needs to be a cap on the rent because it's going up so
yeah, they tried this in Ireland, and they're trying it in Scotland now. And all it means is that people leave those areas. They did it in Ireland, I think, 20 years ago? Early 2000s, I think. Anyway, 10 years after they did it, there were 23,000 houses on the market when they announced it. 10 years later, there were 900. Same area. All you do, because bear in mind mortgages go up, prices go up, rents have to go up too, otherwise landlords won't rent. You can't rent out a property if the rent is less than your costs on it. It doesn't make financial sense, you just won't do it. The laws of supply and demand. You can't argue with economics. Yeah. The laws of economics are laws of nature, like the laws of physics. You can't break them even if you want to. Like they just are what they are. If you sell something for less than you buy it for, you lose money.
Yeah, bad business.
It's just bad business. Yeah. So when you implement a cap, and it might be linked to some form of government, irrelevant index or some crap, it doesn't make sense because the market is a free market. It's self-regulating in and of itself. I can't put on a flat out there and try and rent it out for 10 grand a night. It just won't work. It will have a specific market value, which is based on how many people want to rent it and what they're prepared to pay. And then everybody else does that, and you end up with a market rent, which is always a range. It's never a specific number. It's subjective. So you then put a market cap, a rental price cap on it. It's right for the first couple of years, but as mortgage rates go up, as utility costs go up, because if you're renting out HMOs, which are the cheapest form of rent on the
house of multiple occupancies,
there's my man. A bit like a student house.
Yeah.
Bills are included in that. So is your insurance. Everything else is included. So as those prices go up, if your rent is capped, the landlord's making less money. He'll just sell. Well, now you have less people renting. So 2016, we had Section 24 tax changes, meant that any landlord who owned their houses in their own name had to pay a lot more tax. I mean, like a ludicrously large amount more tax. 2020, they changed the eviction regulations with COVID, and they changed something else recently. I've forgotten as well. Obviously, interest rates are going up and energy prices are going up as well. And those first two were... Oh, that was it. They brought in EPC changes so that by 2025, landlords have to spend money to make the house more energy efficient. In practice, no one really cares about that, by the way. No one ever looks at EPC when they buy a house or rents a house, but the government's pushing it forwards. Those three things single-handedly changed the rental market. During 2020, on average, in any previous year, around about 8 to 10% of houses on the market used to be rentals, right? If you take Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast, during 2020, 42% of houses on the market were ex-rentals.
Wow.
If you start squeezing landlords, you make them pay more tax, you make them invest, and eco-friendly stuff is ludicrously expensive. You're asking a landlord to stick his hand in his pocket and pay 15 grand. A lot of houses, especially up north, only make like £150 a month.
What?
How many years of profit are you asking the landlord to pay to upgrade his house for no purpose?
Yes, that's why
that also reduces his equity because the price you pay for the goods don't even increase the value of the house the same amount. Like, it's just a stupid decision.
Yeah.
And then obviously you bring in tax changes and you make it more difficult for tenants to leave. It took like 18 months to start evicting tenants when COVID hit. Like, landlords just go, it's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle. You now have less places to rent. If you've got half as many places to rent and the same amount of people who want to rent, or you have a recession where people can't even get lending because they can't afford it, now you have twice as many people renting and originally half as many people renting, offering houses to rent. What happens to your price of your rent? It goes through the roof every time. All the decisions that the government make, especially left-wing politicians who are pushing forwards for more protection for renters, it just backfires on the renters.
I feel like I just want to move countries. I want to go to Bali or something.
Bali?
Bali.
Oh, I think where's Bali?
Bali? No. Like, but then obviously there's a lot of responsibilities that I have here, so it makes it difficult to do that. But I am thinking of traveling 2 months here, 1 month away, 2 months here, 1 month away, and all the stuff that we need to do it in that month. So it's like every quarter I'm flying out basically because I can work from my laptop. I can do it from anywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember a couple of years ago I made 10 grand while I was away skiing, like selling deals.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'd work in the morning, get up like 8 or whatever, bash out some stuff. I'd send people who were still at home to go view for me. They'd send me the video tours. I'd ring up, sell the deals, bank the money, and then go ski in the afternoon and go out for dinner. Problem solved. Like, you don't have to do everything here. There's a lot of ways in which you can make business work for you. And the working from home movement is obviously a big movement, although it's starting to reverse again because people understand that, you know, there's social issues, you're not meeting people, and generally speaking, you are less productive. You know, not everybody is an entrepreneur, and that is okay. Not everybody is meant to be self-accountable. You know, not everybody's meant to manifest their dreams. Everyone is meant to manifest their dreams, and everyone is meant to like do that through like an entrepreneurial style way. Sometimes it's just through regular hard work, working for the man, and that's okay. And quite frankly, I'm really happy that we have people like that because as an entrepreneur, I'm going to need staff. If you can't employ anybody because no one wants to be employed, then yeah, you got a bit of a problem. So employees are very important. But yeah, find out again. It comes back to what do you want to do, man. I fully support, you know, if you're going to be happy doing that and just as productive, if not more so, then yeah, you should start tomorrow.
I feel like I will be. And then that's in 2023 that I'm thinking of doing that.
Good man.
We'll do that actually.
Come on.
Because I feel like when I'm somewhere else, I feel so much more inspired. So even, for example, when I went to Spain, I remember just waking up, looking outside, hearing the birds, smelling the fresh air, like seeing the sea, and then just being able to wake up and then just go outside on the balcony, just sit down.
I remember your snaps.
Crack out my get some fruit, crack out my laptop, get to do a little bit of stuff. Because sometimes I just like to work straight as just, you know, drink some water, have some fruit, work or read when I wake up.
5 minutes getting up, clean away.
Do you see, because that's another thing we got to talk about.
I have a super
this.
short morning routine. I can't do it. I can't get up and shower in the morning. I'm too eager to get stuff done.
Really?
There's too much on my mind about what I want to achieve.
Yeah, because you wake up thinking about what's the next thing that you can start doing.
So how long from the moment you wake up until you start your work? How long
I've had to chill myself out, but then that's in my head of thinking that I need this morning routine. I need to do this, then this, then this, then this, and it's got like shorter and shorter and shorter to the point where now I wake up, brush my teeth, wash my face, then eat, and then straight after I've eaten, I'm
so that's jokes. Same thing for me, but make a cup of coffee and then I'm writing emails. And I'll be drinking my coffee while I'm working.
There you go. And emails, I don't look at them first thing.
Yeah, you start with emails.
Probably strictly speaking, WhatsApp. Unless I get a call that wakes me up or, you know, whatever, then I'm doing that. But yeah, predominantly it's gonna be like WhatsApp, getting back to like the immediate messages and stuff, and then probably jump on emails. My to-do list, you see, is in 3 places. It's responding messages, respond to emails, and then whatever's on my physical to-do list. I just have a to-do list and just work through it. I was like fancy CRM system here managing my diary. It's like, what have I got to do? Write it down, get it done.
Simple.
Action, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, we could talk for ages.
You talk for ages. But guys, this is a very, very informative episode, man. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. As I said beforehand, this is
we're just taking it into
probably one of my quietest episodes. I was just listening.
I've never seen Rob so quiet.
Rob was just like,
I'm just taking it in. I was like, JV, BRR, RAH, RAH. But guys,
I like that.
But guys, thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you.
An amazing episode. I hope you guys took James away from this one here. If you're here at the end right now, please leave a comment. If you're on audio, 5-star ratings, trust and believe and trust. It goes a long way for us too. And if you're on YouTube, please leave a comment, leave a like, and share with your people. As John always says, share one person, man.
One person.
Give them 10 minutes of purpose and trust and believe they will be a fan. Remember, a fan and supporter. Join the family, guys. But guys, have an amazing day. Attack the week.
And before we even cut out to that, thank you so much for joining us, James.
Thanks for having me, man. This was good fun.
This is amazing. Really fun, This is amazing. This is we like to be educated.
Yes.
We've been entertained for so long. I think us as people, we've just been entertained for so long. We need to get educated. And what we like to do is edutainment. So it's education and entertainment at the same time. Because we just guys having a conversation.
That's what we do, yeah.
And it's a valuable conversation.
What life is as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just people communicate.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what it's all about. That's what it should be about.
That's literally all it should be about. But anyway, if you want to find out more about James, then go head over to his pages. There'll be either something floating here or floating there or down in the description. There'll definitely be stuff in the description. But go check that out and go check James out and check us out. But yes, without further ado, good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this world. Just enjoy your day and we'll see you next time.
Let's get it.
Bye.
Cheers.